Tom Arnold.
Tom Arnold here. Are we rolling?
Yeah, we are currently rolling.
Son.
I'm Johnny Abrahams, and you're watching Davey J Today.
Honored to be with you. I wish you best of luck on your YouTube channel.
Hi, I'm Naomi Grossman, Pepper from American Horror Story. You're watching Davey J Today.
You're watching Baby J Today.
I'm your host, Davey J.
Davey J.
You're watching Davey.
What?
It's Davey J Today.
Oh, you're watching Davey. Are you Davey J?
Yep.
Smash that like button.
You're watching Davey J Today. All 200 of you.
All right.
Yeah.
Greetings, everybody. Welcome to Davey J Today. I'm your host, Davey J. And today, we're going to be discussing episode 3 of The Last of Us season 1. Davey, 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 Davey. Now, I'm a little bit late to the party on this. I got sidetracked with a different project I was doing. All you can see right here on Davey J Today. And you know what? I'm a little bit late to the reviews on these episodes, but who cares, right? I know as my subscribers, you're just willing to get whatever content of mine you can get your hands on. So, and I know there's a lot of you that still haven't seen the episode yet, so you're probably still catching up anyways. That's kind of the beauty of streaming. You get to watch it whenever you want to, right? So we're on episode 3. Now, episode 3 kind of goes off the beaten path. As always, before I start this review, I just want to let you know, spoiler warning, in case you haven't been watching the episodes yourself, we're going to talk about things that happen in the episode, and I'm not going to sugarcoat it or try to be careful at all. I'm just going to tell you my opinions, and if things that happen in the episode are given away, so be it. Watch the episode, come back if that's the case, but you heard it here first. Spoiler warning. It's not my fault now. Okay. As the episode begins, we catch up with Joel and Ellie, and Joel and Ellie have made their way far away from, it looks to be about 10-15 miles or so away from Boston now, kind of alongside this creek, and Joel is stacking rocks. Now, if you remember the stacking rocks thing, they kind of did this in The Walking Dead during season 2 when Dale died. Stacking rocks is something people do to honor somebody after they have just passed. So I thought that was really cool. He's kind of slowly stacking the rocks. It's kind of just to pay homage to those who just passed away. And considering Tess just made her grand sacrifice, I think it was totally appropriate. So then Joel and Ellie kind of take off, and Ellie and Joel come up on this airplane, and the scenery is just beautiful. This airplane is obviously crash landed, and there's some infected out there, and the airplane is broken into like 2 or 3 pieces, and Joel's like, oh, that's and she's like, I know what it is. It's an airplane.
You're flying one of those?
He's like, you know, they were really expensive and it's not really a big deal.
Get shoved into a middle seat, pay $12 for a sandwich.
Dude, you got to go up in the sky.
So it just kind of goes to show you the differences between someone who grew up exclusively in the apocalypse compared to Joel, who had 30 years in the normal world before everything came to a halt. Anyways, I thought that was really interesting. The next thing they see is a bunch of skeletons, and Joel, being that smuggler with a heart of gold, is like, Ellie, I don't want you to see this.
There's stuff up there you shouldn't see.
Now I have to see.
I don't want you to. Serious, Ellie.
This ditch that's like full of skeletons, and obviously some not so great things happen to these people early on. And Joel says, you know, a lot of the people that didn't make it to the QZ, or they thought weren't going to make it, maybe they had a disease of some sort, they ended up just kind of killing them right here and then, and they just kind of threw them overboard and didn't take them to a QZ, and that's where they ended up. And then there's like this interesting little graphic where they show these people getting taken to a QZ, and it's like a flashback scene, and it's really sad because one of the babies has like a rainbow blanket, and you see the rainbow blanket sitting there in the ditch with these skeletons, and it's like, oh, so sad. We move on, and then Ellie's like, oh, where are we going to go? And Joel says, there's this guy named Bill. He doesn't live too far away. We'll go get some supplies from him, and then we'll go from there. So the next thing we see is Bill from the video games. Obviously, this is one of the best levels in the entire game. It's called Bill's Town, and they deviate a little bit from the video game. They kind of make Bill and Frank these central characters of the episode. In the video game, he has a partner, we find out later, but really all Frank is in the video game is like a hanging skeleton and an S note, and it's really kind of sad.
Bill, I found this in there, and I figured you should have it.
Well, that's how you feel. You too, Frank.
An idiot. You ready to go?
But they gave him so much life and meaning in this episode. So what happens is we see Bill at the beginning of the apocalypse in 2003. All of his neighbors get taken to the QZ, and we see right away that Bill is just a survivalist. He's got tons of supplies, he's ready for the end of the world, and as people get abducted and taken to these QZs, he hides in the basement, he has camera equipment, he goes to the local Home Depot and eventually fences around this whole entire town. So all of a sudden, Bill has his whole town fenced off to the world, and it's just him, a ton of supplies, sitting pretty at the end of the world. Oh, Bill's played by Nick Offerman, and he does such an amazing job. And this is such a different role for Nick Offerman, so I was kind of surprised at the depth. We'll talk a little more about that later. Just like in the video game, Bill has all these cool traps, all these cool mines that explode to get walkers, to get the infected, and it's just really cool how he has everything rigged.
Keep coming. Oh, it doesn't get old.
And he has these traps dug out, so if infected trip over these things, they fall basically into this pit, and he can get them and clean them out later. So one of his alarms goes off, and he goes out to one of these pits, and guess who? It's Frank. And we don't know who Frank is yet at this point. And then Bill's like, come on out, gives him a ladder. And he's like, I'm starving, I need something to eat. And he's like, well, this isn't an Arby's. And we get this really funny scene.
Well, Arby's didn't have free lunch, it was a restaurant.
And Bill lets Frank into his house. He's like, I'll let you take a shower. And he ends up making him food. They have some wine. And the smile on Frank's face as Bill brings him this awesome cooked meal, and you can tell that Frank probably hasn't eaten in weeks. It's just the best smile. Isn't that smile just amazing? Anyways, from there, we see this sexual tension between them. Then there's all these feelings going back and forth. They start kissing. And it's almost like love at first sight. You got Bill, who's all alone in his own town, and he's all by himself, and probably has been for a long time. And then Frank comes into his life, and all of a sudden we get this beautiful romance. It's so different from the game, and I wasn't expecting it, but just this romance is just so beautiful. From there, we get to see Frank and Bill grow really close to each other, to the point where we see Tess and Joel finally come into the picture, and they become their friends. Even though Bill is very untrustworthy, Frank's like, come on, man, we gotta have some friends. We're gonna have to branch out, meet some new people, and trade with other people. And Joel comes into the mix, and he's like, I can get you some awesome fencing. And although Bill's apprehensive, he starts to kind of like Joel as a friend, and Tess as a friend, and that's how they meet Joel and Tess. So then many years go by, and we get this really sad scene where these raiders show up, and Frank's like, Bill, there's people out here, and then all of his alarms are going off, and these explosions are happening, and these raiders are getting like burnt up like they're nothingness, like they're NPCs in a video game or something, and Bill ends up getting shot. Frank saves him, brings him inside. Obviously, this isn't like some kind of mortal wound, but he was shot and he survives only because Frank takes care of him. And if Frank weren't there, maybe Bill doesn't survive, right? And so we see Bill and Frank basically grow old together. And now we're back up to current times, which is 2023 in the Last of Us world. Not in our world, but in the post-apocalyptic Last of Us world. So about 20 years have gone by since the beginning of the apocalypse, and they're much older. I would say in the show, they're probably in their mid-80s now. And Frank is very sick. He might have some form of cancer, maybe ALS, but he's in a wheelchair. It's just this beautiful story of two people who are madly in love, taking care of each other. Now they've grown old together, and Frank looks at Bill and says, this is going to be my last night. I want to in your arms. And it's much more romantic than that, I assure you. How they're going to do it is they're going to crush up some kind of pills. I assume there's some kind of painkillers, and put it in their wine, drink it, and then it's kind of just like a, fade into oblivion, right? Even though it was really hard for Bill to do this, he starts crying and he's crushing up the pills, putting it in the wine, and Frank drinks his wine, and then all of a sudden we see Bill has also drink wine with pills in it as well, and we see they're both gonna basically die in each other's arms, and it is just so romantic.
This isn't the tragic suicide at the end of the play. I'm old. I'm satisfied.
We see this amazing scene where they're holding each other and there's this beautiful music playing, and I almost lost it. Like, it was a real tearjerker. And it was just this beautiful, blooming romance that I did not expect. And it's so different than in the video games. Bill gets such a better story in the TV show than he does in the video game, in my opinion. And Frank was barely even a character in the video games. And he's funny, he's capable, he's smart and intelligent. And it was just a pleasure watching them fall in love. And eventually, they also end up getting married, and they have their little makeshift wedding, and it's just beautiful. They put rings on each other's fingers, and it's just a beautiful love story out of nowhere, and it was awesome. Maybe a little bit controversial to some, because I know a lot of people watch this show and they want action and horror, but this is very character based, and I really enjoyed having this in my episode of The Last of Us. The last couple minutes of the episode involves Joel and Ellie finally making their way to Bill's house, where they see a note written to Joel, because they know that Joel and Tess are the only people that come visit them, and they say, hey, you can have all my supplies. We kind of took the easy way out, and leave us be and take whatever you want. Take the truck, take as much food and supplies and guns as you want. It's all yours. I never really considered you a best friend, but either way, you're my friend. And you can see the humor come out in this letter too.
I'm guessing you found this, Joel, because anyone else would have been electrocuted or blown up by one of my traps.
But also, it's a very sad letter, but it's kind of a beautiful story in that in a world run by the dead, these two people got to choose the way they went out, and they found love in a world where love is like the last thing on the totem pole. Not many people are going to find love in this hateful, dreaded world. So it was really cool how Frank and Bill were able to find love, and maybe we'll see that in the near future. Maybe Joel will find love for Ellie and begin to accept the death of his daughter, and we hope that maybe Joel will learn how to love again by the end of the season as well. The episode ends with this shot out the window that's kind of like the start menu screen for Last of Us. And I only know this because I heard it from the director in the official HBO Last of Us podcast that plays after every episode.
The reason we were attracted to this idea is that's what happens in the game.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
The opening of the game, you're in the menu, you're seeing a curtain blowing in the wind, and it's like press a button to start.
Yes. Yeah.
It's the shot out the window from the bedroom of Bill and Frank where they ended up in each other's arms. And I think it was really appropriate that they didn't show their bodies, because I don't think it's really necessary to have to go there. It's a very happy ending in a dreadful world, and I really liked how this episode shaped up. Anyways, how did you feel about the episode? Did you like it? Did you not like it? Why? Why don't you tell me below in the comments section? Again, I want to thank you for taking time to watch all my reviews and all my YouTube videos. I am super grateful for every one of my subscribers. And if you don't know by now, y'all are my babies. Love you all. And thanks for watching. I've said my piece. Now it's time to hear yours.